We're going to go through a quick overview of the J-100 and J-200 series hot tubs, just to go through a quick operations. So in this series, some of the hot tubs have a 1-pump system and some of them have a 2-pump system. The way you can tell is on the top side control. If it's a single pump system, you'll just see a jet button with the number 1. If it's a 2-pump system, it will have 2 jet buttons, one with the number 1, one with the number 2. So the tub we're displaying today is a dual pump system, but all of these hot tubs are going to operate the same way. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that your water level is to the bottom of all of the pillows and that you've got good depth into the filtration area here. So once you've got the water up, you can put power to the hot tub and the system is going to start automatically. So what's going to happen is the hot tub is going to go into a purge mode, which means that all the jets will first turn on, blow all the water and air through to make sure it's safe to start, and then it's going to go straight into a heat mode. So from there, you can control your temperature by using the plus and the minus on your controller. When you hit the plus button, it's going to dial the temperature up. When you hit the minus, it's going to dial it down. Those numbers will be flashing, and then they will go back to a solid number. That solid number is the actual water temperature in your hot tub. When you push either the plus or minus again, it will then go back to what you've asked the hot tub to heat to. So most customers will have their hot tub somewhere between 98 and 104 degrees. Personally, I like my hot tub at about 102 degrees Fahrenheit. So the water will heat up to that temperature. It will have a plus or minus 1.5 degree of accuracy, so it'll let the water drop 1.5 degrees, heat back up to that set temperature. So on this particular tub, pump 1 has a low stage, which is also the filtration. The tub is in a filtration and heat mode now. When I hit the button again, it's going to put that tub to high speed. Back down to low speed. It's in filter and heat mode, so I cannot turn that pump off at this time. Pump 2 is going to operate this half of the hot tub at the back here. Now, I'm just going to go to the back of the tub just to illustrate. As I turn jets off and on, you can actually turn every individual jet off and on around the entire hot tub. You can also inject air by turning these valves around the tub itself. At the back, we also have a waterfall feature. There's a little tab, and sometimes when the tub is brand new, it's a little sticky, but you basically just turn it so that it points straight forward, and then it's on, and then back off. There we go. The lights in the hot tub, there is a button with a light bulb. When you press that button, it's going to turn the lights on around the tub itself. Right now, we're in what's called the water rainbow, which means the colors will fade through all of the different colors in the settings. If I push the lights off and on, it's now going to go to a slower setting, and then off and on. Now we're going to start to hold a solid color, and now I'm toggling through the different colors. So now I'm set to the blue, set to the purple, and so on. So I can go through the whole sequence. If I let this time out, and then I can turn the lights off. It will remember the last color I was on. So give it a couple of seconds. Turn it back on. And now we're back into that water rainbow. On. And now I'm into the next sequence. And now I can, again, go through all of those solid colors. Those lights are on a 1-hour timer. After an hour, they will turn themselves off if you haven't already turned them off. With the jets, the high-speed setting of your jets, it will either knock it down to low speed if it's still in filtration, or turn the jets completely off. So the control system is quite simple on the 100 and 200 series hot tubs. You basically just have your temperature setting, your jet functions, and your light functions. The one other function on this hot tub goes into our menu setting, which controls your filtration settings as well as some other settings in there. So we'll go into that next. We're going to look at the menu features of the J100 and 200 series tubs. So the menu button is this button to the left of the temperature. So when I first push this button, it's going to tell us PF, and then it'll scroll text to tell us primary filtration. Now when I hit the plus button, we're asking our primary filtration to start at midnight at 12 a.m. If I hit the plus or minus, we can change that setting. Okay, and then jet pump 1 will always lock the setting in, so it's locked at midnight. And now this is the number of filtration settings we want to occur in a 24-hour period of time. So let's set that to 4 filtration settings, lock that in, and now this is the duration of each filter setting. 1 hour, 2 hour, 3. So let's set it to 2 hours, lock that in. Okay, now we're going to hit the button again. We go to heat. The heat we want to set to the auto. We don't want it on eco, we want it set to auto, and that means it will heat all the time. Lock that in. Hit the button again. FC, scrolling text tells us this is a filter change. What that means is the tub has an internal countdown, right now set for 90 days. In 90 days it will count it down to 0. The screen will tell us that it's time to change your filter. This is just a reminder, and then you have to actually go in, use your plus or minus to reset, and I'm going to suggest to set it to 90 days, which is approximately 3 months for those filters to be brought to the store for a cleaning. Hit menu again. Now we're into our UV. The UV is our Clear-Ray bulb. The Clear-Ray bulb has a 1-year life, so it will count itself down from 365 days all the way down to 0. Once it hits 0, again, it will tell you on the control that it's time to change your Clear-Ray bulb. You go into this setting, you reset this to 365 days after you've changed that bulb, obviously. We will have a separate video on how to change Clear-Ray bulbs. Menu, H2O. This tells you when it's time to do a water change. So again, use your plus or minus. We have it set for 6 months or 180 days, and we can lock that in. So again, once it counts it down to 0, it will tell you it's time to change your water. I'm going to show you one thing on this setting as well. I'm going to go back into that water change or water refresh. If I go past 180 days, I can go to an off setting. What that does is it turns the countdown off. For some people, they don't want to be bothered with the countdowns. So any of these countdowns, whether it's the filter change, the UV, or the water refresh, you can turn it to off if you choose. Hit the menu button to the next one. It will now go into the time. This allows us to change the hours, lock it, the minutes, lock it, AM versus PM. Go back to the menu, same thing with date. April, and we can change that first off with the year, lock it into 2020, April, March, April, lock it into April, the 7th versus the 8th, lock it, and now our date is locked. Temperature, this is simply the difference between Fahrenheit and Celsius. By default, the tub will come in Fahrenheit. Language, you've got some different language settings. You have English, French, Spanish, German, back to English. I'll lock in English. The lock feature. Now the lock feature gives you a few different options in here. This will lock all access. The next one will be into your settings, like your filtration settings. The next one will be just locking the temperature. And then the last one will be a service setting. And we use the service setting if you want to turn all of your pumps off in order to change your filters, rather than having to turn the breaker off to do this. So I'm going to lock the service. So I'm hitting jet 1. And what it's going to do is it's going to shut the pumps down here. Now it didn't do it immediately. That's because the heater was on. So it's going to take a couple of seconds to let that heater cool down, and then the pumps are going to stop. And then at that point, there it goes, it stopped. I can access my filters. Now, once I do my filter change, put clean filters in, I want to start the system up. It's really easy to get out of the lock. You simply hold the menu button down for 10 seconds. And there we go. And now it's going to tell us that we turn the service off. If you go into multiple settings, so let's say you turn the settings off, the temperature off, and the pumps off, you would have to manually do each one. And it will tell you on the scrolling text that you have turned the temperature off, the lock setting off, you've turned the settings off, or you've turned the all access off. Over here we have our buttons to adjust our temperature. So right now the tub is at 74 degrees. That's the actual water temperature. When we hit the plus or the minus, this tells us what we want to set the tub to heat to. So I'm going to dial this up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a nice temperature. 104 is the hottest that the hot tub will go to. 7, 8, 9, 100. It's flashing. That's what we want it to heat to. Back to 74. That's what the actual temperature is. Hot tub is now going into a cool setting. And that's solely because the water is below 80 degrees. It's purging the lines. This is an automatic built into the system. I'm just going to override it. So once the tub gets above 80 degrees, that cool will go away. This is just an automatic in the system. You have 2 jet buttons on this particular tub. If it's a 1 pump system, this button 2 will not exist. Pump 1 has a low speed and a high speed to it. Pump 2 goes straight to high speed. And then you have your light button. Basically, it's an on-off. And as you push the light on, it will toggle through to the next coloration in the sequence. So the settings are all very simple on the J100 and J200 series tubs. Okay. We're going to look at the filtration system on the J100 and J200 series hot tubs. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have either turned the power off to the tub by turning off the breaker, or go into the service mode, into the lock, and find the service mode and deactivate the pumps through service so that the jet pumps are not going to turn on. So right now the bobber has no water moving through it, so it's going to be nice and easy to access. So basically this skims up and down to wherever your water level is. You need to make sure you have proper levels of water in order for that to work properly. So the way it works, it's really simple. Turns counterclockwise, it kind of snaps, lifts up and away. We'll set that to the side. The basket comes up and out, that can get rinsed out. And then the filter lifts up and away. Okay, and so that filter is a cleanable filter. You can rinse it out. Basically, you would take a garden hose with this pressure nozzle to your sink, like in a laundry room or something like that. Give it a rinse, or even out on the steps, and just rinse up and down all of the fins. You'll see gray water washing out. Once the gray goes away and it's just clear water running through, you've gotten the debris out of those filters. We do recommend that you bring these filters into us every 1 to 2 months for a proper cleaning, but you can rinse these out every 2 to 4 weeks as well, and that will get 90% of the debris just by simply rinsing them. So now to put that filter back in, there's a hole on the top, a hole on the bottom, and at the very bottom of the filter there is an actual ring that the filter sits on, much the same as the ring here on the bottom of the basket. So that filter needs to sit on that ring like so. Same thing from the bottom, it needs to sit down on that ring. So as we put this filter down and in, you can feel the filter, and there it goes, falls down onto that ring. Okay, if I let go of the filter, it wants to float back up. Get it back down on that ring. I'm going to keep pressure. I'm going to take the basket and slide my hand out to push that basket down so that it's flush. If it's not flush, then it's not sitting on that ring, and you won't get this guy to sit in here. So then I'm going to basically take that skimmer, turn it clockwise, give it a pull, make sure it's in there. And now it's in there nice and snug, and this can now float up and down again. Now I can turn power back on. So in this case, I'm holding the menu button down for 10 seconds, and that will reactivate the pump system, and everything can go back into filtration mode. There we go. And this is now going to skim up and down. Just make sure that it's loose, that it's not caught, that nothing has gotten in there, and you're good to go.